there, bookworms and deep thinkers. Ever finish a book and feel like it just flew out of your brain as soon as you closed the cover?
You meticulously read every page, maybe even dog-eared a few, and yet nothing really stuck.
Today, we're exploring a way to make those reading adventures last. Reading journal prompts.
It's fascinating how a few well-placed questions can unlock a whole new level of engagement with any book.
We're not talking about just summarizing the plot here, but really diving into analysis, personal connections, and those aha moments that make you see the world a bit differently.
We're using excerpts from 50 Reading Journal Prompts Lestallion, a recent blog post by Clara Penrose, as our guide.
Now, you might not consider yourself a journaler, and that's okay. Think of these prompts as tools for unlocking a richer reading experience, whether you jot down your thoughts or just let them simmer in your mind.
What's brilliant about Lestallion's approach is that it combines objective analysis with subjective response.
You're encouraged to examine the nuts and bolts of the book, plot, characters, themes, but also to connect those elements to your own life, experiences, and emotions.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit.
I noticed right away that the prompts are grouped into these really helpful categories: characters, plot, personal connections, themes, and future goals. It's like a built-in roadmap for exploring any book, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It's like having a seasoned book club leader whispering in your ear, guiding your thoughts, and helping you uncover hidden layers within the story.
It plays into how our brains are wired for learning. When we actively recall information, make connections, and ask ourselves why, those neural pathways light up like a Christmas tree.
It's like the difference between passively watching a movie and then actively discussing it with a friend afterward.
The discussion brings it to life, helps you remember the details, and often leads to those aha moments you mentioned.
And it's not just about remembering the plot points, right? It's about making those connections to the wider world or even our own, inner world.
Precisely. And that's where those personal connections prompts really come in handy. They're like doorways into deeper self-reflection. Like I'm thinking about a time when a journal prompt about a character's moral dilemma in Crime and Punishment. Well, it sparked this whole debate with a colleague of mine about ethical decision-making in our own lives.
Wow, that's a book club conversation taken to a whole other level. It's wild how literature can do that, spark these really, I don't know, meaty conversations that you keep coming back to.
Totally. And that brings us to another cool thing about Lestallion's prompts, the way they make us think about, our reading goals. Yeah. For the future.
It's like she's saying, okay, you've dug into this book, now what? What are you going to read next? What don't you know that you want to know?
Right. It's about becoming a more, intentional reader. Choosing books that aren't just for entertainment, but for growth, for exploration.
And maybe even, a little discomfort when a book challenges your worldview.
Exactly. I think that's something we're kind of missing these days with all the recommendation algorithms. I mean, don't get me wrong, algorithms have their place. But there's something to be said for actively searching, for books that resonate with our own interests, aspirations, all of that.
Okay, well, speaking of those aha moments and, growing and all that, let's each pick a prompt that we thought was really interesting, insightful, whatever. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. One that I particularly liked falls under characters. And it goes, analyze a character who undergoes significant change. What events or relationships act as catalysts for their transformation? I'm just drawn to prompts that make you think about the why. The why behind a character's development.
For sure. It's like you're trying to figure out human behavior. But in a fictional world, you know what this reminds me of? This one prompt from the themes category really stuck with me. Describe a book that focused on family dynamics. How were the relationships portrayed, and what impact did they have on the characters?
Oh, that's a good one. Family dynamics. It's like the original human drama. From those old Greek tragedies to memoirs today, it's a theme that never gets old. And I immediately thought about Tolstoy, Anna Karenina. Sort of powerful look at, love, duty, societal expectations, and how all of those things kind of collide within a family.
Yes. And I know it's kind of a different vibe, but that prompt also made me think of Little Women. Oh my gosh, that book. When I was younger, it just swept me away. I was the same age as Jo, the writer, and her struggles with, being taken seriously, breaking free from expectations. All those experiences were just so real, so relatable. It's crazy how you can feel so connected to a character. Like you're not just reading about it anymore. You're right there with them,
And that's when reading is at its best, right? That feeling of, wow, I'm not alone. We're all connected. Reminds me of that Anais Nin quote. about how we read to know we are not alone.
That is so good. It really shows how powerful stories can be. They help us understand each other, connect with each other. And, going back to those family dynamics prompts, it's like getting a crash course in, like, how people work, how relationships get so complicated.
Totally. Like take the family in The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen.
Yeah.
Talk about dysfunctional. Or that father-son relationship in Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's heartbreaking. But in both cases, you see how family shapes everything. The plot, the choices people make, even like bigger ideas about love and loss and how families stick together no matter what.
Those are some really great examples. And I think what makes these journal prompts so helpful, whether you're writing stuff down or just chatting about a book with a friend, is that there's no right answer. It's all about thinking deeply, finding your own meaning.
Exactly. It's about being curious,
Yeah.
asking questions, having a conversation with the book, and, as we've been saying, those conversations can keep going, even after you've finished reading.
I like that. So before we go, one last thing for all you listeners out there. Remember that last question from Lestallion's post, the one about your future reading goals. Think about it. What kind of book are you really craving right now? What have you always wanted to explore but haven't gotten around to? Maybe it's time to dust off that classic novel you've been putting off, or try a genre that's totally new. Whatever it is, embrace it. Be curious. And let these prompts guide you as you discover your next favorite read.
Don't forget, it's not about just getting to the end. It's about enjoying the journey. Those connections we make, the stuff we learn that stays with us long after we close the book.
So well said. Happy reading, everyone.